See the full animated short at playoverwatch.com.
Team Freedom has the tools to take out Gale Force eSports. We saw it in Game 1. We've seen it before in Part 1. Unfortunately, it didn't work in Game 1, but it was so close. They were so close.
I mean, they had a little bit of everything going for them, and Gale Force quickly was the team to just snatch it away. You know, it was all about the top boss. Again, it's one of those moments where it's not wrong to call in either direction. It really isn't. I'd rather see that than a split decision on that core coming out from Team Freedom. But in the end, it was not the proper decision, 20% away, and Gale Force ends up getting the win. It's just one misplay, and so that could be a benefit for Freedom with the mentality. It could devastate them, especially, again, talking about the map, but it also could be a driving motivator in the series.
It does seem like it was maybe the right call all the way up until Boss was half health.
Yes.
And then at that point, it's like, okay, guys, I don't know if we can do this because there's still a lot of damage. It's Nazebo late game. Fans Vala eats through a lot of health bars, and they can stay alive for a long time.
One of the weirdest things to consider on that dive specifically is you always have to consider how can we end through comps. The heroic choices, we always talk about the ones that are really good at ending the game. But one thing in that game specifically is double support. What does it mean to end into a double support? They are very good at taking long sustaining team fights, which happen on the core, which means you no longer can focus on getting a couple of picks like you traditionally can. You either one-shot one person instantly, or you ignore the double support completely and only all in the core, which again is one of those things that almost always hurts a team when they're doing that, even outside of a double comp, like support comp. But the double support forces you to not actually commit. You have to all in the core. And so it only made that call not only more right, but more desperate than anything.
In losing that game, Team Freedom now have the choice between first pick and battleground pick. They are our very consistent first pick picking team, which puts Gale Force eSports in position to go where else, Dreadnought?
No, just sweet, sweet Braxis holdout. Give us the Zagara, give us the lane innovation. That is where Gale Force is going for game 2, and it's one I'm looking forward to. They break all the rules when it comes to the laning matchups of Braxis holdout, something I have been longing for to see in North America. And it's awesome that they not only have one creative, innovative strategy that they came out with, but in fact, they have multiple. You know, that we saw them make adjustments. Zagara is a key, but I don't even think it's needed. They have a one-up, not on the compositions, philosophy to Braxis holdout over North America.
I almost think that Muradin is more of a key for them to have on Braxis than Zagara. They have shown us 3 different iterations of their Braxis holdout strategy, and the only ones to hold true throughout all have been Zagara and Muradin. They've been able to switch other things up. So what does Team Freedom do? I do like to believe that Team Freedom might be one of the teams best equipped to stop Gale Force here. They have always shown good drafting on Braxis, and now they have even more information thanks to watching the tempo loss to Gale Force here. But it is undefeated.
Yeah, I think that they have the one big thing for Team Freedom is the fact that maybe they don't have necessarily the tools when it comes to, in theory, in this draft, like what they maybe draft the proper tools, but beyond anything, the one thing they have is they've seen enough attempts, enough answers to it.
Right.
You know, whether it's the Sylvanas split push that we saw at a Superstars to try and match it. I personally am still a huge fan of this Sylv. I would frankly say that I think Superstars really misplayed the early game. I think Sylv is a soft answer, not a counter, but an answer to that type of composition.
Even Navintic did well early on versus this composition, and it was because of Zuna. They had the pick idea going. That might be something that we see Team Freedom try to utilize too. They've already banned Zeratul though, so they are taking that away from Gale Force eSports. Maybe the focus is to take Zeratul and Valera out?
I think if the Freedom, what this could allude to, I'm not saying that it is going to, is actually a Muradin first pick. Gale Force itself is going to ban the Zagara. Just snap Genji. Genji is way mobile when it comes to the actual shrines itself. I don't know the exact distance between the U shape above the shrine itself into the secondary one. I don't think he might be able to dash the whole thing, honestly.
If not, cyber agility dash.
Yeah, you can just, and you not only can cyber agility dash it, you can cyber agility just hang out there in the middle or just hang out there naturally and then go over the sidewall, which is what we saw from Muradin on this map from Gale Force eSports.
So a lot more focus on getting heroes that can steal the beacons even out from behind a team. As they're trying to push down structures, you just take the beacon behind from them, and that naturally draws them back to defend. And that's what Gale Force has been known to do this whole time.
And to join Genji is going to be a Muradin on the side of Gale Force eSports. They, in fact, are going to be sticking to that aspect of this composition. That is something that is not going to change for them. And then sticking to a global, so you know, their playstyle fitting Gale Force eSports playstyle by picking up a global, but then also matching their Braxis strategy, not with the same heroes exactly, but close enough to where they can make the same thing work.
I'm floored by Zagara ban from Gale Force. I love it. I love seeing them say, you'll never figure out what it truly is that we need to do this. And it might be, you might have figured it out, Jed. It might not be anything specific, just as long as they can have the right heroes that still emulate their strategy for Braxis.
If Gale Force hadn't shown the innovation beyond attempt number 2 with Zagara, I would have said that I felt like their comp was just a one-off composition, and now it's kind of hit the end of it. But I truly do believe that it was when they mixed up the laning matchup to a 2-3 that was constantly rotating that I realized Gale Force just gets Braxis better than North America. It's not a Zag thing. It is not. It is just that they understand laning matchups so much more, to where I still, even seeing this from Freedom, innovation, a new hero, not going to give it to them yet. I'm still very comfortably on Gale Force's side so far in this draft.
Freedom have what is considered to be 2 strong heroes for the 4-man, having Malfurion and Gul'dan now. They have good wave clear with that. And some lockdown for kills, too. Gul'dan will be great in big team fights to be able to have Horrify. Now what bans do we see?
It's going to be a noob.
Back to a noob.
For Gale Force here. So what is Team Freedom ban? That Anubarak ban, when there's a mage already existing on the other side, could allude towards a bit of focus on a specific mage. My first thoughts of Chromie, coming out from Gale Force eSports.
They've played both Kael'thas and Chromie now on Braxis.
Oh, Freedom even is going to be hovering the Chromie ban. They feel the same way I do after seeing that a new ban, but again, Kael'thas has been an answer for GFE so far. And now an appealing one, knowing that Anubarak is gone and the Chromie is going to be gone. Also providing a hard CC to be able to lock down Genji when he dives the backline, and having the Mana Addict to potentially bait a Genji into diving is an appealing feat to have in a composition.
Taking Gul'dan also stops the last iteration that Gale Force played on Braxis versus Tempo, which was Gul'dan and Morales. And they could 2-man a lane very effectively while they had one person or 2 people in top and then rotating between beacons to steal them. So are there any heroes that you think could pair well with Morales in the same way?
It would have to be, like, Vala is decent. The biggest thing is that it has to be a hero with wave clear. The wave clear matters more than the kill potential, but any damage they can get past that point is always going to be awesome. So they go Lieutenant Morales, and then it's going to be the Vala. Vala has the perfect balance of wave clear, but then also just raw harassment, and the mobility she actually gets out of her passive when completed. The movement speed that she gets with the Morales healing beam allows her to not only get free damage past a mini wave and zone off a weaker duo, but also, again, she has wave clear, and that is what you need when you're going to run those 2-lane in 2 versus 3 mismatched lanes.
Love the Azure Order Master Vala skin. That's my personal favorite on my Vala loadout, complete with the Vala announcer too.
You know, it is one of my more favorite skins out of 2.0. It's one I haven't personally gotten to play with yet, but it is pretty sweet anytime that we see that in game.
And they have the blue Demon Hunter banner. Ooh.
Ooh.
Sweet.
Sweet, sweet banners. Team Freedom, for their last 2 picks, they're still missing a Warrior. Tyrael's one that comes to mind. Tyrael and then a Falstad, I think, would be a really awesome draft. Ragnar's Varian, so going very different direction. Still going to be single target burst, though, for Team Freedom in this draft. Sticking to their guns after what they experienced in game number 1. Gale Force going a different route, but still exactly what Gale Force would do. You know, they haven't tried to embody a different draft, different region. It's just sticking to what they know. Focus on laning on Braxis, stick to globals a little bit here and there with the Dahaka. Last pick, Valera, stealing the back door. Okay, so Gale Force is changing something, and that is who is their Shrine backdoor. And it's Valera now. It's not going to be as much on the Muradin, but Valera...
They've done it before with Valera, though, and they've done it with Zeratul and Muradin.
It's a really complex thing that I don't think I have enough time to exactly break down, to be honest. A lot of the TLDR of what Gale Force is doing is that they are pulling... Originally, they would commit to lanes, and it didn't matter the lane matchup they committed to. They would just hyper-focus on making sure they had 2 beneficial lanes and then someone backdooring the shrines. They have seen different variations of it, and when they commit the Valera and the Muradin, instead of dominating the shrines itself, you win through rotations and actual kills. You still have as much backdoor, stall the Braxis holdout shrine as much as you possibly can between the Muradin and the Valera, but now you have more gank potential. So rather than going, we're going to dominate the lanes and pressure those out and then win through backdooring on Muradin, it's instead we're going to gank more with Valera and Muradin, still be successful in one of our lanes, the Vala and Morales, and then be able to get the picks there. So making it more almost Dragonshire-esque, like Zeratul and Dragonshire, being more gank focus and backdooring of the objective, and when it works, it can really pay off.
My immediate fear for Team Freedom is Ragnaros. If he's stuck in the solo lane, he has to play so cautiously now because Valera is on the table. She's a piece in the board, and that's my concern for them. Maybe Genji can show up to help out, but my fear is it will be too late and Ragnaros will be gone in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
Well, let's see how it plays out. We're going into the game. We'll see if Team Freedom can tie things up on Braxis holdout.
Another thing to be looking at here for Freedom is the fact that, yes, we do have ourselves a Genji, is the fact that nobody else can really dive with Freedom's Genji. There is no counter pressure, there is no enabler, there is no burst support. It is merely follow-up to Varian. And again, when you have as much mobility as you do when you are on a Genji, when you have so much potential to dive the backline, always you want somebody to be that pseudo-threat, much like you do as the Illidan. And Freedom doesn't have that. And it makes me very, very timid to really kind of be able to back their composition.
Yeah, we've seen some Genji play versus Varians, and you do have to adjust how much you can Swift Strike in for a kill on the backline, because the minute you get there, you can get taunted and blown up. Genji is very easy for a team to blow up, and there's no Divine Shield, no get out of jail free card, not even a Sanctification. So Genji is on his own for the most part. We'll see how, is it Insomnia playing Genji?
I believe we do have him on the Genji. No, it's Nasmus. Is Genji here for Team Freedom.
He's also in trouble in top. He's hanging out with Insomnia, had Deflect to stop some of the damage. We'll keep an eye on the Genji build throughout the game. Swift as the Wind has been the favored talent that I've seen so far from everybody, giving movement speed after you use Swift Strike. Just a little bit to make sure you can get the kill or reposition to be able to back out.
And so what we already see out of Gale Force eSports is a 2-3 split. They're sending Fan up on top with the Dahaka to be able to baby him, and on bottom it is in fact the Muradin, Morales, and the Vala. That is a winning trade matchup for Gale Force eSports.
Drag. He's already in trouble.
He's got the Swift Strike still. He's going to be okay.
He used it to go over after Valera.
Oh, well, maybe not as okay as I made it out to be.
Yeah, I was a little scared for him, but he's fine.
But Gale Force is now, rather than dealing with the 2v1 into the Dahaka, they're fine with that because Valera can be that placeholder. So she's not worried about the Shrine so much. She's just making sure Dahaka doesn't get wrecked because their bottom laner is so very strong. Again, they chose such a superior top lane and then go, well, if you're going to 2v1 it, our three-man lane is going to be able to beat yours as well. Gale Force, again, so much emphasis onto the laning matchup. and they are so smart at understanding what they can and can't get away with in these lanes.
Yeah, there is, as long as Gale Force keeps all the members bottom that they have, there's almost no way that Team Freedom steals away the beacon, especially because of Akaface and how well he can keep everyone healed up, and then Equinox, who can stand on the point with those heals for an eternity. So it's up to Ragnaros and Genji to keep a hold of the top beacon and make sure that the bottom lane can just stop whatever pressure and damage on structures as best as they can.
Swift strike in on Anasmus. There's a follow-up stun.
Agility.
Drag is going to be used, and that is the first kill of the game, going over to Gale Force eSports onto that so very squishy Genji we were talking about before.
Yeah, that's the problem. When you get chain CC'd like that, it is just about lights out. Cleanse will help at 7 if Malfurion's there, but so far he's not been in the same lane as Malfurion.
And we've already seen what Valeera can do as an anti-melee. I'll be honest, I never viewed her that way up until we saw, I think it was Glorong versus Saul. I think it was a matchup between Valeera and Zeratul, and she's such a good answer to Zeratul, but it doesn't stop there. It's even into the Illidan's, into any squishy melee assassin that wants to dive. And that was the first time we've seen an initiation, but if Genji makes that risk later on and it's not an instant reset, that is going to be a very common occurrence, I believe, here on Brax's holdout.
First Zerg wave started. Insomnia using Molten Core once again to defend versus the pressure. That will make this a lot easier of a defense, especially because a wall was still present, and this is an early Zerg phase.
Early Zerg phase is going to be the case, but no sieging any farther for Gale Force eSports. They had a moment where they could have risked it. Genji going down up on top. Nice B-steps drop by Fan. Always got to respect those. I've learned, at least last time Gale Force eSports played, before you flame Fan for the BM, he realized that I call out every B-step. And so now he B-steps as much as possible.
And why wouldn't you?
You know,
that kind of fame.
I expected some more spray variation, to be honest, coming out after 2.0. B-step has been a surprisingly stable thing after 2.0.
Maybe it takes a little bit longer to adjust how you want to BM after a death. Once people have used sprays more, they'll come out more, especially as you get more things like the Varian question mark, which is a favorite.
Yeah, the Varian question mark, man.
I want to take this time to talk about the Genji level 4 because we are building up Shuriken Mastery. There's 2 tiers of this. We'll have damage once he hits 35, and then 75 gives you 2 charges back with Cyber Agility. May pair this with double jump at 13 or something else. Look at Dahaka's placement. Nasmus is going to be in so much trouble. Stormbolt hits Mike Udall there too. He swift strikes out and stays alive, but the camp claimed by Gale Force.
Not the direction you want to be pointing that swift strike if you're a Genji player. Again, the squishy health pools of Genji forcing a quick retreat. Gale Force eSports now, after stealing the camp, is going to look to break the bottom 4. Can they get anything out of it? No taunt up. Equinox falls low. He's got the healing beam. Genji, he looks flashy, but nothing too crazy happening there, you know? He came in, he dashed really quick. He was like, I'm a ninja, and did some sweet reflect things for a moment. You're like, oh, this is really impactful. And it really just tickled.
I wonder if because of Genji, we still see Strafe. Or if Rain of Vengeance will be there. Because, yeah, if you have Deflect and Strafe hits, that's a whole lot of kunais flying at your teammates' faces.
But the Reflect range is significantly smaller than that of Strafe.
That's
so
true.
there is a line that this Vala can kind of dangle on, and because Vault is longer than his passive as well, he would have to dash. If you fall into that perfect range, he would either have to use his passive, and then Vala should be able to out-vault it. So in theory, if all cooldowns are up in that 1v1, Vala should come out on top.
All right, we'll have to see. Gale Force getting closer to those heroic abilities as they take down Gul'dan. Nice drag from Mike, and Varian gets taken out. Beacons available. Genji's going to head top to try to make sure that Insomnia can hold one of these beacons. But he's having a tough time with all these stuns of Gale Forces.
Yeah, it's going to get even tougher as he walks into Fan. He saw it. He saw the glimmer of light and quickly runs away. But Fan and Gale Force eSports are feeling so strong right now. Licking their lips. They got 100% Zerg Rush. They've got their level 10s. They're
Yikes.
going to put the hurt here on Freedom.
There is Molten Core possibilities. We may just see Team Freedom simply give up the fort here in the top lane and then use Molten Core at keep.
Gale Force, please tell me, are they flanking or are they going bottom? Looks like they're flanking. Nice scouting drone is going to reveal that. Equinox off on his own for now. So what, Gale Force, what I was talking about, are they rotating? Or are they, so they have two options here. With their 10s, they obviously want to take the fight, so they can push through top, but if they're afraid of a Molten Core delay for too long, they can then rotate to bottom and take the keep there.
Well, they could... Being up here in the top keeps Freedom off of the Zerg until now, when Molten Core's been used. Gale Force staying here. They're not going to make the rotation bot. They're just going to weather out the storm of meteors and Molten Runes, all of that, until Molten Core has subsided. And then Gale Force could maybe try to get picks if anyone was out, but Team Freedom played that very passively, knowing they did not want to lose the game to a snowball.
This is such a huge play. Can we look at Justin for a moment? Or excuse me, not Justin, but Varian for a second? Oh, do you see how he's not killing this Guardian? They're baiting, that boss can't be taken. They're intentionally not letting this boss be killed. That was such a huge, subtle play. Like, from Freedom here, the fact that they didn't rush this.
Awesome.
Because Gale Force was like, okay, what do we do with our 10s? And then they backed away. They backed away with their 10 advantage on a keep. They didn't even take out the keep from wall. There's 0 places Team Freedom can go, or excuse me, where Gale Force can go and force an advantage, except boss. That's the only place, because they didn't even take a keep from wall. You have 10 advantage, and you aren't going to take that. Where are you going? Duh, you're going to boss. So he just doesn't even touch it, lets it go, and says, well, now we've got ourselves a 10. Thank you for wasting half of a level with a 10 advantage.
And that puts Freedom back in the game. They've lost both of their forts, but they still have a potential of a team fight at even chances. And they know that they can pull Gale Force over into that fight if they bait the boss. Desperation
is going to be started on the boss. Crowan says, you may start it, but we might want to finish it. Okay, a little bit of a...
This boss is like, hello, can I just attack somebody, please?
I would just like a friend. What if they are...
He looked like John Travolta.
I think they're going for... Why we saw that potential boss started there for Freedom is purely off the Genji factor. Just how he interacts with that single target damage and getting the reflect out helps on that race. And was hoping that, you know, Gale Force would be like, there's no way they expect a boss here.
Rain. Okay, we're fine.
We're good. Nothing yet. Valera's still soaking up on that top.
Freedom say, fine, you won't fight us without 13, then we'll take some of your towers. We're going to get as humanly close to 13s as we can before you get those. This is the last chance for Freedom. They're trying once again to start this boss. This time they are committing to it, using that deflect of Nasmus to soak a lot of this damage.
So Gale Force should not risk any of the damage coming out from that right there. Oh, it gets the kill on the Equinox. I was going to say...
It prioritizes heroes!
All I was going to say is they just need to make sure that they wait till the boss gets one shot, all in when it gets one shot, because they do not win that race. Freedom... That's what I was talking about. What they wanted to do with that boss and bait it is because of Genji. And
that was so
you
cool.
quickly learned why. Gale Force not being able to adjust. Loses a member, but this is going to be a 13 versus not 13 fight here on bottom.
Horrify catches roots to Mike Udall. Staying strong, has the heal of his adaptation. Rain of Vengeance catches Zugrug. Team starting to get split. Collusion and the rest of Team Freedom trying their darndest to kill Michael Udall, but there's no Ragnaros here to help with the damage.
Murden just came back from the death, looking to join his friends here on bottom. Dansky getting caught out. Twilight Dream's going to be used, and that is now a kill onto Gale Force Esports. Mike Udall in a terrible spot. No adaptation, but they turn around. They get the pick onto Collusion. Sulfura Smash comes in. That is going to be a pick now, 2 for 2.
2 for 2. They didn't have Ice Block yet. Nasmus dashes back, still throwing out shurikens as damage. Likely going to lose Varian here as his Protect is limited and gone. A 2 for 3. Let's Gale Force Esports start to get beacons, but the boss is still pushing toward the top. It took out a fort. There's mercenary pressure in the bottom fort too, so Team Freedom staying in this game on Braxis versus Gale Force.
This is the boss that could, man. Nobody paid attention to him. He is just wailing away here. Percentage ticking for Gale Force Esports in this game. Up where nobody on the side of Freedom. Looking like they're going to stop it, at least not for a long while. As Equinox posting up on bottom, making sure nobody scouts that. Top's the only option. Freedom goes over to match fan, so this is where it's going to go down. Top is where the fight is initiated. And Gale Force scares them away. 100-0 Zerg Rush once more.
This time heading in for some keeps. And Gale Force can try to get back ahead in experience. They're already a level ahead, but hoping that they can get, once again, a talent tier advantage. And this time, maybe just finish off the game with it.
It's going to take a couple of picks.
Molten Core used early on so that they can get the full sieging power from it. There is still a wall in front, too, so that will help deal with those pesky Zerglings.
See what Gale Force is going to be able to get here with the siege up. Zerg Rush is almost depleted, already down to 7,000 HP on those back Guardians. Equinox took a lot of damage. No major talents here. Looks like Freedom trying to force it. Good Stormbolt is going to buy a bit of room. Gale Force makes it out. No talents here. Dahaka's still soaking on top. So just a Zerg Rush where Molten Core was used and nothing to be gained, nothing risk.
Molten Core keeping Freedom in the game. Mike Udall going to try to do his best to push the top lane. But he'll have to head back as the rotations go in. Both teams trying to get their mercenary camps. While we have a moment, we'll look at Genji's build. Did not pair Shingen or double jump with Shuriken Mastery, instead getting flow like water, which is the reduction in cooldown for his Swift Strike. So in the event that he uses it and doesn't quite confirm the kill to get the reset, at least he will have it reduce the cooldown. And he has Dragon Blade, so it's another way of trying to make sure that he can get that back up. Also, perfect defense is cooldown reduction for Deflect. May use that with Reflect later on to deal more damage off of his Deflect at 16.
It's going to be hoping he can do more damage around those bosses with those Deflects again, because that is the reason Freedom is ahead in this game, purely off of that boss. And they're only, you know, they're only ahead in terms of getting that one fort, really. It's what they've been able to pick up with that boss. So it's a stretch, but it's one. It's a silver lining here for Team Freedom. The 16 talents are nowhere to be found. This is not a shrub you want. Nasmus is going to be the start. Fans looking for that finish. Going to force the cleanse after the variant taunt, but nobody... The fact that Freedom's even here risking this fight, I would say is questionable at best.
Yeah, the nice thing for them is obviously Dahaka's hanging out in the top lane soaking, but with Brush Stalker at any moment, he could pop his face out of one of these vents. Freedom wants 16, and as long as they stay here giving Gale Force the fight they want, they're not getting it, but it's all come down to this. Horrify goes out. They've got Sulfurous Smash 2. Twilight Dream comes down, does hit one. They take out Vala. Morales already inside of the medevac, and Freedom turns. They're trying to get a pick while she's down, but it's Genji who falls, now with Fan showing up and Dahaka.
Yeah, and that Malfurion coming out there of that root. Ooh, Dansky taking a lot of damage coming out from Fan. So much pressure from Zugrug onto Akaface. No self-heal. The poison seals the deal here. This is 2 members down for both teams. Gale Force now looking for the variant. Zugrug, one Dwarf Toss Stormbolt could be his life, but he is going to be fine. No attempt from Gale Force. With 16 talent tier still in their hands, the fact that that fight was even was not optimal, but a lot of that, again, came down to the Dahaka soaking up in that northern lane. Was late to join the fight, and that insta-pick onto Akaface took so much pressure, he instantly medevac. He didn't put a single heal onto Crone in that last fight.
Yeah, so it was a 2-for-2 that allowed Team Freedom to get to 16. Fans stand on the point, going after Collusion now. They have here, Taunt is available. Forcing Smoke Bomb from Fan. The rest of the team starting to funnel in one at a time. Here comes Genji.
Here comes Genji, but no damage yet. 92 and counting. That's going to be another 100-0 Zerg Rush. This is where I want Gale Force to go bottom. Really bad. So I talk about split pushing and on 2-lane maps when you can get away with it. This one's a little bit different, but mainly because of the Molten Core. They've taken out another front wall up on top. They did it on bottom, but every Zerg Rush has just died. Bottom is a keep if they push with that and they force it up on top, or at least they have a 5 versus 4.
Once again, it's like a clockwork. As soon as they step into range, Molten Core popped, using that for the Zerg. Between that and Gul'dan, this will be cleared out quickly again. This time, though, Gale Force can step out because there is at the front wall. Equinox dives in, trying to get Damesky.
They burnt the taunt and Sulfurous Smash. Horrify on top of it. They need to get a pick, or otherwise Freedom has no shot in this team fight to come. There goes a little bit of peel. Dwarf Toss on out. Krillin getting healed up by Akaface.
Drag hits Varian, though, but it puts him in position to taunt Akaface. Nasmus goes in. Lieutenant Morale is taken out. 2 for nothing for Freedom.
Perfect initiation and follow-up here from Freedom. Nets them those kills. Fan is on the run. He should be able to make it out, except for that Malfurion. If Malf stayed mounted longer, he would have been fine. He's going down. It's a sad, sad life. And now boss going to be started, quickly depleted here by Freedom. And we've got a game. We
do, Dread. We've got it. That was, man, they had a drag. They had a target. They had somebody to take out. But it put him right in range of Morales. Quick taunt in the very far dive in from Nasus to make sure they could get that kill was everything. He had resets, and the team had momentum. They finally were able to get some kills. They're starting to climb back. They're almost caught up in experience. They're taking out the other 4, and they have kept their keeps alive through how many 100% Zerg phases?
And that's what I really want to talk about is, yes, Freedom is doing a lot of things very right, but we can't take away from the fact that Gale Force kind of just walked into a fool me once, fool me twice situation. They've experienced the first, second Zerg rush into a Gul'dan Ragnaros and how much they got out of it. And, you know, just spoiler alert, that was nothing. They haven't gotten anything off of a single Zerg rush yet. And even then, they still were willing to push with it, letting it get depleted, and taking one of the only fights Freedom had in this game to come back.
Clinn's avatar burnt for Gale Force eSports from that one taunt of Zugrud.
They're going.
And guess what has a shorter cooldown? That would be taunt. So Furious Smash, Tunneling Claws, lets Mike Udall dive into the backline. He's going to help fan Dansky so close to taking out Collusion, doing everything he can to keep Dansky alive. Horrified too. Ragnaros goes down though. Team Freedom on the ropes, running away, losing a 3, a 4th to drop. Stormbolt.
It's already game. The minions up on top are going to win the game as long as Dansky cannot make it back. They should be building a catapult, I thought there, but I was actually incorrect. Medevac. That's enough. Let's go, boys.
For the second time in a row, Gale Force eSports defends their core versus a Freedom push and wins.
This one was more controlled by Freedom in the early game. You know, last game we experienced a game that was not even, actually. It was more controlled, wasn't it? It just flat out a step back for Freedom, even in this game. Gale Force did have more control, and in game 1, Freedom had more control. Interesting.
I would be so mad if I were Freedom right now.
Well, I would, if I wasn't throwing things around.
You don't have to be mad. I was saying Freedom.
I agree with you. The biggest thing is, much like Gale Force in that last game, got to experience multiple Zerg rushes where you look at the circumstances and you go, well, why would you expect anything else to change? And the answer is you shouldn't. And they still end up making that choice. Feels like that's the choice for boss calls when it comes to Freedom. Is like they get the boss and things are looking good and they quickly get to a moment where they feel like this is our only shot. They have to all in, they overcommit with it, and that is where Gale Force gets that punishment. If they just step that back, and obviously maybe in that last game at least clean up the early game, things will be a lot better for them.
Well, now that does leave them with only really one chance left if they want to be able to continue going in this series versus Gale Force eSports. We're heading to a break. When we come back, we'll find out if that's the case. Stay tuned.